All right, everybody. Let's Um, as you can probably tell, you'll see the camera is going to do its normal thing, it's functioning, what have you. So thank you to all who have sown your seed that allowed me to be able to get a better camera. And I love the fact that they really are not anywhere near as expensive as they once were. So glory be to God. I was pleasantly surprised, by the way, because I was thinking like hundreds of dollars, but no, these things are really, I guess, the high demand. With more content creators. Thank you. And going on. And yeah, so we are going to cover some things. We talk a lot about Colossians 2, verse 19, overall in this ministry because it had to do with our health, right? What are we doing in this ministry? We are combating radio frequencies for healthier living. So you want to keep that in mind. And I know that, crystal clear. Um, yes, the camera does have a mic with it, but you know how I am about these studio apartments. I'm going to continue using the mic that we've been using because of the simple fact that it's doing just fine. I'm not going to take a chance of the microphone that comes with the camera. It's built in, but we're going to wait until I don't have. It might be extremely sensitive. Remember how we learned that external microphones in this environment tend to pick up way too much. So, yeah, as far as the refrigerator running, you name it. So we're just not going to take that chance. You know what I'm saying? Like, if it's not, even though the camera that's built in is fine as well, we just knew we needed to get something a little bit better. That's all. And so there you have it. And so we're going to work with this. And we're going to go with the flow. Go with the God flow. Because if you can hear it, listen, I'm going to do the sound check while those notifications are going out. Let me go ahead and do our sound check. So, yeah. And I don't announce this stuff. I just went ahead and got it. And you know what's funny? I got it before I went on the business trip. I locked it up in my safe when I got it. And I forgot about it till yesterday. I said, "Oh, I remember I got that." Okay, anyhow, yeah, because I didn't. Well, when I had to come back and do a quick inspection myself, bring that package in, I wasn't going to carry all that back with me. I knew I would have it when I got back. So, yeah, okay, so there you go. Okay, yeah. See, if the volume and the microphone and everything is doing just fine as it is, then there's no reason for us to. Okay, there we go. Yeah, I do find it intriguing though that the lighting and everything makes the blanket back here look blue when it's actually teal, but that's okay. That's all right. Blue's good. We like blue. Blue's always good. Um, I am Michelle Dickey, your host for CHA's Let's Just Chat show, streaming on the YouTube channel Narcissism and Cognitive Dissonance, where trauma healing and spiritual growth are front and center while combating radio frequencies for healthier living. And yes, okay, laughing about, I forgot that I had it. Well, it is one of those things. But we talk about combating radio frequency for healthier living. And we talk about how, in order to do that, we make better choices, right? We are in God's reality. Okay, we're going through the renewing of the mind. So as we go through the renewing of the mind, we are purging the subconscious, right? We are unlearning old belief systems. We are unlearning old ways. We are unlearning a ton of stuff that no longer applies and it's not serving the kingdom of God. And so I want to tell y'all that part of the healthier living is how we're going to increase in nourishment with the increase of God. So we're going to cover several pieces of Colossians chapter 2 in this episode, if you will, in this video, because it's very important to get a handle on understanding what God is talking about, okay? Because in the spiritual, we know and we trust God is guiding our steps to help us make those better decisions, to help us make the better choices. Even when we go through a detox period where we've got to bring our autonomic nervous system back into the present, so we have to give the inner child some things that it wants, but in moderation, as part of the discipline that we've got to develop in order to increase with the increase of God. And see, the devil knows that we're going to do that. And as we increase in nourishment with the increase of God, well, that makes us not dependent on man. And the devil doesn't like that. But again, like I say often, it's too bad because God is in full control. And once we discover things that were supposed to remain hidden, it just gives us that heightened awareness. So, right, it looks sky blue. I know, and that's okay. That's okay. It's actually quite nice. But, yeah, all right. And remember, y'all, there's a delay. Okay? Because casting, for those of you in the UK, you're 4,000 miles away. So, the Wi-Fi, okay? So, anytime I come over to the comments and it's touching on something that I talked about 45 seconds to a minute ago, okay, that's how it rolls. If you don't understand that part about broadcasting, there's a little bit of lag time between when I make a statement to when some of you all actually hear it, okay, or see it, however it is we're doing it. If I put it up on the screen, what have you, there's always that lag time, so don't forget that, okay? So in Colossians chapter 2, it's very important, along with a lot of God's word, obviously. But, we cover verse 19, how we say, and not holding the head, from which all the body by joints and bands having nourishment ministered and knit together increases with the increase of God. Now, remember the three wise men, right? Why do you think that they gave, one of them brought frankincense to baby Jesus? Well, frankincense is, in modern time, boswellia. Well, boswellia is for joint support, but it not just that. It is also to help the fluidity of nutrients for the knitting together. Think about sewing. All right, I know we've got some of y'all who are into that, and then you got some of us who have tried it. Not our big thing. That's not part of our calling. Now, I do know if I need to stitch up a little tear in something, I know how to do that, the basic stuff. But as far as, I tried crocheting. It was fun and nice, but it's just not my cup of tea. But for those of you who it is, you're absolutely 100% talented, and your work is beautiful. Those of you that have seen your work, it's absolutely beautiful, and we appreciate you, because I'm not going to do that. But anyhow, when you think about how everything has to be knit together, right? Think about crocheting, how it's all knit together, right? And so he's talking about our joint and band having that nourishment ministered, then they'll be knit together with that nourishment. So what boswellia does is it not only helps with the inflammation, if you've got bruising or any other type of issue maybe going on there, then it helps to mitigate that, meaning alleviate, lessen the intensity, and it will do that, but it also helps to promote the normal fluidity, the normal knitting together of the joint and bands. So when you think about your joints, right, your shoulders, your elbows, your knees, your ankles, right, and then don't forget about your hips, all right, everywhere in the body, and then your spinal cord to the skull, and everywhere in the body that you have joint and bands, right? So boswellia take care, but it's not the only herb that can help with that. You've also got other supplements, like it could be considered minerals, if you will, but You've also got things like a glucosamine complex that has like MSM, and sometimes those complexes will include a little bit of Boswellia. And so you have to think about, okay, so that also helps with the inflammation and then the nourishment. I mean, think about your fingers, right? That's a joint. Joints and bands, right? Joints and bands. Joints and bands, right? Everything being, everywhere that your fingers, okay, that and your toes, even in your toes. I mean, it's that delicate. And so when we increase with the increase of God, okay, in the spiritual, because God guides our steps to have us obtain the things that we need. Okay? And exactly. And so our goal is to break free from the dependency on the matrix. Exactly. I personally, and I know that many of you all have also, but I personally have always gravitated towards all natural remedy, homeopathic. Anyhow, I've always been that way. I have always had somewhat of a, I don't want to say disdain, but I've always had an issue with that big P in the matrix. I've always had an issue with it, and I never understood why until we got into God's reality, and I learned that the symbol, that's the symbol of death. You know, that stake with the snake around it. And I said, oh gosh, now I know why. It's the spirit. That was the Jesus spirit in me and the God spirit, and I just always had issues with it. And never a fan, still not, and now we know why. Because they put metals in a lot of their things, especially aluminum, and that goes straight to the brain. And it's a metal salt. And I said, okay, now I understand why. And even though over the years, until we knew better, we got duped. I'm talking about myself, and I know a lot of us did until we knew better, got duped into some of those over-the-counter remedies, so to speak, because we didn't know any better at the time. But as far as running to the big H over every little thing, no. Chosen One, we basically, our spirit was very, very loud when it came to certain things like that. And I remember I'm going to share a little story here. I remember going to a specialist for one thing, just one issue while I was a truck driver. One thing. And it kept, now I know what it is. It's the body's internal heat getting aggravated in that spot that would make us think that we were having heartburn. No, we're not having heartburn. So, no, no, we don't tell ourselves that anymore. No, if I experience any kind of discomfort that resembles that, I think about, okay, LED lights, where was I today? How much was I exposed to? How much salt have I taken in today? Oh, what have I eaten? Da 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 da. And I think about that and I go, okay, you know what? That's all it is. It's momentary. And I grab an ice pack, some ice water, and within a half hour, it's gone. I'm telling you, this is how we increase in nourishment with the increase of God. We don't allow ourselves to get tricked into thinking that we had those things wrong with us, that we now know is just a radio frequency symptom. And that our internal body, the biological process, basically it just got agitated a little bit. Okay, that's the best way I can put it. It just got agitated. And so you're like, okay, hold on. So the best thing is to cool that inner heat down. So when you do that, you're able to, you cool it down. And so, circulation picks back up and things start to go where they need to go, and your body will calm down and it will get rid of, it will relax in that area, and it will get rid of whatever it is that's upsetting the nerves in that area. So, and the knowledge, that's the other way we're going to increase in nourishment with the increase of God, is this kind of knowledge, this kind of awareness, the awareness about ourselves, our body, what it's doing, what it's telling us, how it's responding to certain things. But I remember going to the doctor. Yes, I'm going to get back to it, what I was alluding to. I remember going to a doctor just for that one issue. At the time, I didn't know any better. I thought it was, what I was told that I had. I thought it was acting up. And at the time, a particular over-the-counter remedy was not available over the counter yet. You had to get it by prescription. So he prescribed me that, but then sent me home with 3 more bottles. And of course, I'm like, okay, it's the doctor, da 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 da. And then I remember I got them all filled, and we get back on the road, and that's when I had a moment to think, hold on a second. One of them happened to be a muscle relaxer. Now, I still to this day don't understand why I was prescribed that along with a remedy for heartburn. And so the other 2 that were prescribed, I don't even know what they were called. I don't care. It doesn't matter. I never touched them. Got back to our camper when we got off the road for a short time, and I got to looking at everything because I took one of those muscle relaxers while on the road, and I did not like it. I was in the bunk trying to sleep. I was done driving, so I'm obviously not taking that while driving. So I'm ready to go to bed, and it said to take at bedtime. So I'm like, okay, so I'm taking it at bedtime, and I'm going to tell you right now, it felt like my body, it felt like me, like I was sinking, literally, like I was melting into the bunk itself. I did not like that. I said, oh, no. I said, we're not taking no more of those. So when we got back to the camper, back home, if you will, off the road for a little bit, I looked at all 4 bottles, and I only kept the one that was for the heartburn. Okay, I only kept that one. The other 3 got tossed. I got rid of them. I said, why did I have all that? And I'm like, now we understand, because that's what a lot of them in that industry are. Well, they're programmed to do that, to prescribe you a bunch of pills that you don't even need. There's only one that I went for to start with. Why the rest of them? Well, we know why. But to try to get me hooked on or dependent on those things. You see? Because you become dependent on those that also contain, apparently, metal toxin that over time you wouldn't notice how it's making you feel anymore, right? Like you wouldn't pay attention to, okay, I don't like that feeling, right? You wouldn't pay attention to that. Now, chosen ones, we do. We're like, hold up a second. That's not what I went for anyhow. I never at that time understood. Now we do. We understand why they do that. Okay, they prescribe more than what we need. And I said, okay, I'm not playing that. So now, in God's reality, right, how we increase in nourishment with the increase of God. Okay, I've just given you a couple, being disciplined with the choices we make. All right, making better choices food-wise. Okay, so even if you're going to do a cheese and cracker tray, choices of the crackers. Yeah, make sure there's no high fructose corn syrup. Get the lowest sodium available, okay, the lowest sodium possible if there's that option. If there's not, then you're just going to make sure you monitor and limit the amount of those particular crackers that don't have the low sodium. Just monitor, don't overdo, don't eat too many of them, and balance it out. Let's say you do have one cracker that is reduced sodium, like your saltine that has no salted tops, right? Unsalted on the top. So it's very low sodium. You have some of those. Then you have, let's say, some Triscuits that are reduced sodium. Okay. And then you have some club crackers. Well, with no reduced sodium option available there. So just a few of those. It's a matter of mixing it, right? And kind of balancing it out so that you're not taking in, because the cheese is going to have a lot of sodium in and of itself. So let's say you have a little cracker cut piece of cheese. What's the choice you do there? Split it in half. And you have 2 halves for 2 different crackers. That's all you need, right? It's about paying attention to, instead of just going and gulping up, a whole bunch, and just a little at a time. A little at a time, making better choices, and then also thinking about how you are going to take that in, how you're going to eat it, how you're going to prepare it, how you're going to, all about that. Thinking a lot more about how you're going to consume the food to keep a good balance between sodium, calcium, potassium, and other vitamins and minerals. So, yeah, it's just going to have to be intentional. I know some people would think, well, boy, that sounds like it takes a lot of time. No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. When I got back today, I made a cheese and cracker tray, and I did exactly that when I was ready for a snack. I had 3 different types of crackers, the ones I just talked about. And I took one piece of cheese and I split it between the two of the crackers. The other cracker, because that satisfied me, right? That took the edge off. I'm good. And then there was one cracker, I didn't put nothing on it. I just ate it by itself. And so it was good. And that's the last thing I had. But right prior to that, I had a couple pieces of fruit and some raw broccoli and celery. Pineapple, grape. I had a pineapple, a couple grapes. I ate a couple of cherry tomatoes, and then a thing of raw broccoli and a celery. That's it. So basically, between that and the cheese and cracker, I had 2 palmfuls of a little snack there. And it balanced out because the fruit and veggie, right? And then the cheese and crackers, it all balances out between vitamins and minerals. Plus, of course, I took my multivitamin earlier, but that's because we're not going to eat as much as we need to get all of the B vitamins and other things that we truly need. So our body does require a little bit of help. I mean, let's face it, we are in a world that is filled with toxins in the air and the water and stuff. So we're exposed to a lot of things that will deplete and use up nutrients before we even get to them sometimes. So you have to keep that in mind as well. See, that's what I'm saying. This is part of the awareness, how we increase in nourishment with the increase of God, is that heightened awareness of all of these things. And then just really stopping to think, because you've got the time to do that. See, when we were still inside the matrix spiritually, right, we weren't awakened yet to all the narcissism and things like that. I can remember many times where we just did not feel as though we had the time to stop and really think about anything. Like, well, of course not. Narcissism, the narcissist, they don't want you to do that. They don't want you to stop and take the time to think about what you're about to eat. You know what I'm saying? You know how you go to a restaurant, right? And you're looking at the menu. You know how the waiter and waitress and stuff like that will tell you, oh, take your time, right, to make the best decision. Well, they don't mind that. Okay, they don't mind that. But if you are, well, yeah, I mean, if you go to a fast food joint, well, you better make your mind up pretty quick, because that's fast food after all, right? I had to throw that in there. Anyway, so they don't want you to stop and think. Why do you think the devil and his narcissists have to use radio frequency poisoning to keep our body's internal heat higher than it should be, so that we remain a little bit, aloof? And when your body's internal heat is like that, then you're not going to stop and think clearly. You're likely going to buy on impulse. It's likely going to be more challenging to resist the devil's temptation with Doritos and other junk food. Okay, now I'm not saying, now did I buy a bag of Cheetos? Sure, every once in a while, my ANS, I got to give her what she wants every once in a while. But it's not a constant thing, and it's just enough for the ANS to go, oh, we good. Because chosen one, our autonomic nervous system, it knows when enough is enough. It just walks by taste, because it's of the flesh. We're not doing that mentally. This is the other way. Okay, this is another how we increase in nourishment with the increase of God. Is that so what? A little bit, I consider Cheetos junk food. However, yeah, if you have to, you know that saying, pick the lesser of two evils, right? So between that and Doritos, she was like, no Doritos. I want Cheetos. I was like, good. Good. All right, but then that's it. It's like, I'm not gonna, right? And we don't buy them all the time. That's the other thing. It's just when she has a little bit of a craving, and seriously, just a very small, not even a full palm, just a few pieces, and she's happy. So I'm like, all right then. Now let me have my salad. But balance it out. Balance it out. All right. Don't be pigging out on it. I'm not saying that you can't give your ANS, your inner child, what it wants from time to time. You just have to learn moderation. Okay, in moderation, and it will tell you, okay, I'm good. All right, but you got to know you're not eating it for the taste. Your autonomic nervous system wants the taste. Once your nervous system recognizes it, oh, okay, it's familiar with it. Remember, in order to, that's part of our nervous system health, you all, is basically, yeah, especially during times of stress. Here goes to one of the previous lives where we were talking about, how to reset the nervous system. Well, here's another tip for you all. It goes right into how we increase in nourishment with the increase of God. Okay, is that to reset your nervous system, a big part of that is to make sure you give it what it's familiar with. It needs familiarity, not just in food or whatever, but in environment sometimes. Music even. It needs familiarity, okay, to relax, and then also to heal if that's what's going on. Remember, the nervous system has to heal too from trauma. I need y'all to understand that trauma healing goes far beyond spiritual healing. I mean, it is spiritual healing in like all ways, but there's also a biological side. Your nervous system is healing. Because after all that traumatization, what did it do, right? Oh my gosh, it had us all tensed up, walking on eggshells, right? Yeah, walking on eggshells, all that muscle tension and stuff. So yeah, it's gonna take a little while for all that to you're gonna have to unwind, and your nerves have to, okay, this is it. This is all right. We're good now. Your nerves are going to need to heal on their own as well. So when your autonomic nervous system has a, let's say, childhood craving, then giving it a little bit of that gives it the familiarity that it needs to relax. And the more relaxed it is, the more relaxed your central nervous system will be. Yes, the more relaxed your ANS is, the more relaxed your CNS will be. Okay, the central nervous system, they work together. And well, your ANS is the external. Think about, okay, and you remember in your biology textbooks, right? You see your muscular system, right? You see all the nerves and stuff that run through the muscles, right? And then your central nervous system running, yeah, in the bones, okay? And so you have all of it, right? And remember how God says here, right, for the right joints and bands having nourishment and being knit together. Okay, well, that's all through the body. Okay, everywhere. So for anybody who has ever had a pinched nerve, that's not fun, right? Right. So yeah, and it always has to work itself out, and that's just the only cure for it, really, is to let it heal on its own. But you can do some things. That's right. You can do a little ice packing and some stretching, and then just walk a little bit. Walk it out, and it will eventually work itself out. Okay? Because God designed our body that strategic to do what it needs to do. So, yeah, okay, well, thank you for that. Fun fact that in the UK, Cheetos are called Watsits. Okay, except they have a blue pack. Okay. Well, it is what it is. So, interesting though. Same, kind of the same thing, but different name. But we have a lot of that out there in the Matrix though, when you think about it. A lot of products that are the same, like Arnicare Gel. Yeah, Arnicare Gel has another product that they label Arnicare Bruise Gel or Bruise Cream, whatever. Smaller, pretty pricey for a smaller, and look at the ingredients on both of them, exact same stuff. Awareness, okay? Yes, all right, same product, marketed with two different, whatever. Anyhow, just watch out for that stuff. I pay attention to all of that. Absolutely. So, That's in Colossians 2 verse 19 for the importance of increasing in nourishment with the increase of God. So being the fact that we're getting closer to God. See, that's the thing. The enemy wants to keep us away from God. In order to do that, he had to try and separate us and keep us away from Jesus. Well, once chosen ones are awakened, okay, and it's no longer us who walk, but Christ who walks through us, well, then that's too bad. You're not going to separate us from Jesus. Not going to happen. God's not going to let it happen. So it's like, no, because Jesus saved our soul. So, listen, y'all, no weapon formed against thee shall prosper. And you got to trust and believe that. And it is, well, that's the thing, right? The devil wants you dependent on the matrix and dependent on man. The more of God's wisdom we get, the closer to God. Remember, he also tells us that draw nigh to God and he will draw nigh to you, meaning the closer we are to him, the closer to us he will be. And we will increase in nourishment with the increase of God, because God is guiding our steps. This is why we're talking about the hows. How does that happen? It's through God guiding our steps. It's through the God awareness. It's through the God revelation. It's through the, okay, we understand what's going on with that nerve and how it's connected to this part of the body, how it's connected to this one, and how it is controlled by our thoughts. Have you ever stopped to think about when you might be feeling a little bit of a discomfort? What the devil wants for you to do, he wants you to dwell on it. Because if you dwell on it, then it's just going to sit there and continue to get a little worse until that's all you can think about. And then, you see, that's how that works. This is why we got to train ourselves. This is another how we increase in nourishment with the increase of God. Is that we stop dwelling on it. We do not allow ourselves to dwell on it. We acknowledge it. Okay, a slight discomfort there. Let's say you have a little bruise. Okay? So you have a little bruise. Oh, okay. You acknowledge it. It might have a little ping or pang every once in a while. But let's say you've got some Arnicare gel. You know what? Take a little bit of that. Boom, 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 boom. And then walk it out. But don't sit there and think about it. Be aware of it, yes. Okay? Being aware of it. But we're not dwelling on it. We're not telling ourselves, oh, that hurts. We're not doing that. Because it doesn't hurt. It's just a minor discomfort. It's all about what we tell ourselves. Okay? It's all about what we tell ourselves. Because chosen one, again, generally we do have a high tolerance for pain. I do know that there are some things that can occur in life where sometimes it can be too much. But you have to think about how much are you dwelling on it? And then what is it? I mean, obviously discernment. I'm referring to things that are just in general, that are considered minor, okay? That will heal on its own with God, because we increase in nourishment with the increase of God, and we stay busy, we stay focused on some other things. And by the way, Chris, I have got all your stuff. I'm going to get to the Patreon channel. Yes, we're going to get to all that later on. We'll getting caught up. And then I'm also updating some things to include the Venmo link on social media for people to pledge service grant that way if they prefer to use Venmo. That is also in the description below. So we now have PayPal and Venmo available for you all, for those who get it on their spirit, who would like to sow a seed into the ministry. And remember, it all goes right back into the community. Well, the growing community of spiritual warriors for Christ, that is. All right, so we are doing some updating to include that, so that, yes, okay. And then we also have quite a bit of fine-tuning and tweaking that we discovered on the website that we've got to do. It's time to get to that. So, okay, if you checked out Venmo, I don't know. Like I said, I know a lot of people have Venmo. A lot of people are using it to send and receive funds. So I don't know. It was suggested to me. So I said, all right, I'll give it a try. All right, we'll go from there. But for those who have been doing PayPal, you like that, that's fine too. I'm just going to have more options available. Okay, and that's that. But how we increase in nourishment with the increase of God in many ways. Like we talked about making better choices, because with God's wisdom and Him guiding our steps, that's exactly what's going to happen. We're going to want to make sure that we buy the freshest produce there is. So if I go and I'm looking at some produce and it looks like it might already be headed on the way out, I'm certainly not putting that in my basket, because I want to make sure that, we've learned how to prolong, right? The abundance. That's another how to we increase in nourishment with the increase of God, is that we've learned how to prolong the life of our produce a certain way, by changing baggies, changing airtight containers when you see a little bit of moisture, things like that. You're going to learn more about all of those RF tips and hacks, okay, coming soon. And remember, on the Patreon channel, that's where you find those digital products, okay, for how-to with the combat against radio frequency for healthier living. Another how-to for how we increase in nourishment with the increase of God. So let's take a look at the Bible verses that lead up to that. And this will help you put it into better perspective too, because he's telling us now that we're in God's reality, God has awakened us to this narcissism. He has awakened us to all of this. So now, okay, basically, okay, starting in verse 13, okay, chapter 2, verse 13. All right, let's cover this. Let's do a little Bible study here. Because how we increase in nourishment with the increase of God, by making those better choices, by getting that awareness, by knowing, okay, and then by really being intentional with how we balance things out between vitamins, minerals, nutrients, all of that, right? But how did that come to be, right? Because now, in verse 13, Colossians chapter 2, verse 13, all right, and you being dead in your sins and the uncircumcision of your flesh, hath he quickened together with him, having forgiven you all trespasses. That's when Jesus saves our soul. Okay, remember, we were walking in our flesh, right? Right there with them, right there with the narcissist, walking in our flesh. Maybe not 100% chosen one, but because we didn't know anything else at the time, right? We didn't realize. We knew we were sinners, but what were those sins? What are they, right? We had to become aware of them. But see now, right, God quickened us with him. And so having forgiven us all trespasses, glory be to God. This is why we tell y'all, if somebody, especially a narcissist, wants to come and bring up a past mistake and throw it in your face, this is why we tell them right here. Jesus dropped the charges, right? Colossians chapter 2, verse 13. If they want to try and bring a past thing up that you engaged in, some kind of, what is considered sin or on the dark side of things, you can say, hey, Jesus dropped the charges. Colossians 2, verse 13. There you go. So all of us have something that we've engaged in, and more than one thing, perhaps, if you will. Because, what? And we're still sinners. That's why we have to ask God to reveal the unknown and ignorant sin. Okay, so that way we don't do it again and again. Then in verse 14 says that God blotting out the handwriting of ordinances that was against us. Woo! Yeah, the ordinances that were against us. All the devil's plotting and playing, trying to take out the chosen one. Okay, blotting out all handwriting of the ordinance that was against us, which was contrary to us as chosen one, and took it out of the way, nailing it to his cross. When Jesus died on that cross, okay, he blotted out the handwriting of ordinances, any of the plans and the plot that the evildoers had against the chosen one. Jesus took it with him to the cross. Right? He took it out of the way. This is another reason why the devil's mad as all get out. Because Jesus took it out of the hands of the devil. Poof. Gone. In verse 15, And having spoiled principalities and powers, he made a show of them openly, triumphing over them in it. When Jesus rose on that third day in spirit, woo-hoo! He spoiled the principalities and powers that we are battling against. Remember? We're not battling against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places, right? Okay, but Jesus, having spoiled principalities and powers, he made a show of them openly, triumphing over them in it. That's why, chosen one, we do the same thing, because when it's Jesus walking through us, you hear me now, how I'm explaining this to you, how we are triumphing, because it's Jesus walking through us now. He's still triumphing over them in it, in their own principalities and powers that have been spoiled. They are rotting in it. Remember, we said before that they dig the pit for themselves, not for the chosen one. They dig it for themselves. And so it tells us right here that Jesus triumphing over them in it. So then we're told now the power and authority on the inside of us, chosen one, how we increase in nourishment with the increase of God. In verse 16, let no man therefore judge you in meat or in drink or in respect of an holy day or of the new moon or of the Sabbath days. Sabbath days. For those of you who have not heard it yet, I've said, if you're resting in Christ daily, every day can be Sabbath day. Sabbath days. That's plural for a reason. Because, right, we're told also, God tells us, he said that the Sabbath was made for man, not man for Sabbath. Meaning we get to choose. But we're told here, hey, guess what? Or of the Sabbath days, right? Let no man therefore judge you. If we're resting in Christ daily, then every day is Sabbath day. Every day. In verse 17, it says, which are a shadow of things to come, but the body is of Christ. It's no longer us, but Christ who walks through us. Our body is of Christ. So then we're also told in verse 18, let no man beguile you of your reward in a voluntary humility and worshiping of angels, intruding into those things which he hath not seen, vainly puffed up by his fleshy mind. And I'm going to share a story with you that happened today to confirm this for you in the spirit. Okay, it says, let no man beguile you of your reward in a voluntary humility and worshiping of angels. So I want to thank you all for sowing your seeds, because this is what it does. This is not to brag or boast, but God said I need to share with you this example because this is what happened today. There was a true needy person in the median with a sign. Y'all know what I'm talking about. God had me put together care package. Right? I had a couple of snack bars, and then some of my trail mix, a couple of bottles of water. Put all that in a bag, and some bread. And I also went ahead and gave one of my protein shakes for nourishment. So I put that together in a bag, and I saw that man as I'm leaving the store after getting my stuff, of course, to bring back. But I had that for a reason, because I know about where many of them will be. So I made sure I had that, and I saw him there. There was a truck behind me, mind you, standing at a light. I'm across the street. Now he's on my driver's side, right? I'm in the left lane because I know I'm going to be turning left when I get to the next light to come home. So it worked out perfectly. Well, I'm not going to speed through the intersection anyhow, but he was right on my tail, that truck. And so I made sure I had my window rolled down. I got the man's attention, and I made sure that I handed him what I intended to hand him. And that truck laid on its horn like, ugh. But let me tell you something. I didn't budge. I let no man beguile me in my reward in a voluntary humility. It didn't faze me one bit. In my mind, I was like, you can go around. You can go around me. I'm going to make sure this man gets something to eat. You can go around me. You want to honk that horn? You narcissist. Keep on keeping on, but I'm going to make sure this man gets something to eat. Getting out here in this heat, especially after this hurricane. Come on now. That's how we do it. We do not let that. I mean, bless the man's heart. I think it scared him. It didn't scare me. Because I did not let that narcissist beguile me. I did exactly what I set out to do. Because they were trying to intrude into those things which he had not seen. Because they're vainly puffed up in their fleshy mind. In a hurry to get wherever it is they got to go. Only to get stopped at the next red light. Okay. So, then, you go to verse 19. Where it said, and not holding the head, from which all the body by joints and bands having nourishment ministered and knit together increases with the increase of God. So as you're reading through, we're being told how Jesus took the ordinances and the plot and the plan of the enemy against the chosen one. He took them away. He took them away. And in doing so, rising in spirit on the third day in Mary Magdalene, he triumphs over them in their spoil, principalities, and powers. Yeah, that he said that their principalities and powers have been spoiled. So it's like Jesus buries them in it by triumphing against them every single time he rises in God's chosen ones. Glory be to God. So you learn all about that in Colossians chapter 2. And it leads up to how we're going to increase in nourishment with the increase of God. Is that in verse 20, wherefore if ye be dead with Christ from the rudiments of the world, in other words, we're no longer walking after our flesh, we're walking after the Spirit. Why? As though living in the world, are ye subject to ordinances. It says, touch not, taste not, handle not, which all are to perish with the using. Ooh, touch not, taste not, handle not. In other words, be not walking after your flesh. A fleshy mind is death, right? Spiritual mind, Romans 8 verse 6, spiritual mind. To be spiritually minded is peace and life. Goes right in line with this. So in verse 20, after that, how we increase in nourishment with the increase of God. And then we got to remember that our fleshy desires are dead with Christ from the rudiments of the world. So, as though living in the world, okay, so we're in it. But are ye subject to ordinances? No, we're not. That's part of the pulling down of strongholds. Breaking of those trauma bonds, those ordinances that Jesus took care of. That he got rid of. He abolished those. The plans and the plot of the enemy against God's chosen one. In other words, a good example that I have for you all right now is there. I suck at that. Okay, but my undergraduate degree, I had people telling me, you need to go into a forensic lab. You need to go into forensic with law enforcement. Oh, I'm a consultant. If any law enforcement agency needs my assistance, they can go right to the website and they can hire me as an expert witness, forensic consultant. But as far as in that entity, no. That was never meant for me. That's not part of my calling as far as that aspect. That's the ordinances, right? Where the world was like, well, with those credentials, you're supposed to be working for this government agency or that. The Lord didn't say I can't work with. The Lord didn't say they can't hire me for my expertise. Sure. But I'm not to be paid by them as far as a regular paycheck. In other words, they ain't going to be on salary. It's going to be my price. They're going to pay my fee. Because Jesus got rid of them ordinances, the plans and the plot against God's chosen one. That's why I tell y'all, if you've got certification, if you got training, you've got what have you, college degrees, whatever it is, take a look at what God had you obtain knowledge-wise. That is what you're supposed to use as part of your calling. Not that piece of paper necessarily itself. Because the world will have you think that, oh, you got to follow in the footsteps of everyone else who had that same piece of paper. Nuh-uh. Colossians chapter 2, right there. Jesus tells us, nope, we are not. Okay? It says, yeah. Why? As though living in the world, are ye subject to ordinances? Because our flesh is dead in Christ. Our fleshy desires are dead. It's Christ now who walks through us in spirit. And so, right, and yes, Chris, you're very welcome. That a lot of, yes, your pledges are going for great causes, okay? And that's just one of them. And it's also to keep this ministry for you all, okay? To keep bringing you content and whatnot across multiple platforms, keep the platform going. But also, like I said, I'll share, I consider the fact that I actually have the abundance I have when it comes to food because of how we increase the nourishment with the increase of God. I know I've got more than enough, and I know there's people out there that have nothing. So I'm more than happy to share that kind of wealth with them, the truly needy, that is. And it doesn't even matter if I run into the same one twice and they get another package. That's fine. It's okay. We're helping. Okay, we're helping where we can. So you're welcome. Yeah, there you go. You're welcome. Standing fast against that narcissist that was honking at me. Of course, I was not going to let him beguile me. Remember, we got that power and authority. It's right there. That's what God's talking about. Don't let them beguile you. Because you are doing the right. Remember, we live in a world, right, that hate Jesus. And how we're told in 2 Timothy chapter 3 that they are despisers of good, the true good. They're despisers of good. So we're taking the time out, as we should, when we can and where we can, to do something that's on our spirit, that's righteous. Ain't gonna sit there and honk at us. Let them honk. Let them honk. Because we're gonna keep on keeping on. And we're gonna do it again when we can. So, do we get a lot of those needies out here? You know, I can't say that a lot. I mean, you have to clarify what that means. But there are a decent amount. I mean, you have to think about where I'm located in Florida. I'm located right outside the other half of Hollywood. So, it is a heavily traveled area. So it makes sense that, for those truly needy to be pretty prominent in this area, it makes sense because they will be able to be probably a lot more successful in getting the help that they need, not just from the local, but from tourists as well. So, I mean, it is what it is. And we know that the system of narcissism causes that to happen for some people, and it's unfortunate. But like I said in a previous video, that we realized as chosen one, it it becomes our responsibility, because this world is not going to take care of them. The world is just not going to do it. So when we can, we got to step up to the plate, and do what we can when we can. I'm not saying we got to do it every day, all day. It'd be great. Oh, I would love to. The Lord knows my heart's desire. Oh my goodness. Even though it's like the care package that I have that I've been putting together here and there when I can, it aligns with the actual vision that I have for the future with all of it. It's not that vision, but it aligns with it. And so it's like, okay, we're baby stepping it. That works for me. Because I actually have a plan, but I also have limited space. Small space living. So it's like God getting us prepared, We are in preparation. And so it's kind of like not practice round. I mean, we're doing it. It's just different than what I've envisioned for the future. However, we know that vision is going to come to fruition. It's just, these are stepping stones. I love God's stepping stones. Come on, y'all. Let's put that in the comments below. I love God's stepping stones, because it just takes that those stepping stones are just going to go up. And we are going to increase with the increase of God in so many ways. Not just with nourishment, but wisdom, being the awareness, and our heart desires, in visions. We're going to increase all the way around. Yes, financially. You better believe it. And work while we wait. Stepping stone. That's right. And so we'll talk more about God's stepping stones in the future. Oh gosh, yes, because they're beautiful. And so, yeah, and they would be, well, you could say they're more visible in this area, sure. What we as a society could do, if that was the organized will, if there was an organized will to do so. Well, you have a lot of entities inside the matrix that give off the appearance that they are doing things for those types of people. And while we do have shelters and things like that, they put all kinds of rules and regulations in place. So, it's, and you do have other entities who do a little here and there, and they want to give off the appearance of doing, but society, you got to remember the matrix really is more about itself and no one else. It looks down on those types of people when it is the system that caused that to happen to them in the first place. So, and right, there's only so much we can do at the same time because of our limited means, in a way. I know. Right. And a lot of the charities that you see, out there are cons. Big money not going to the people who need it. See, that's why I say y'all gotta be careful when we are going to partner up with someone, or we're going to, collab. We got to be mindful of this, because you don't want to collab or partner up with an organization that is a big con like that. You want to make sure that you are partnering up with, if you're going to, you partner up with one that does what they say they're going to do. This is why I'm like, we got our own thing. This is why I do this. I like to have that care package together. I like to have that and make sure that I'm handing it to them. I know they got it. It went right where it needed to go. Glory be to God. I prefer that. I would rather do that. Now, there is a food bank that I used to work with while I was an undergrad, and I'm going to check them out one more time, but I think I'm going to take a trip eventually, and I want to make sure that they're doing exactly what they claim to be doing before I even make any moves or talk to them about anything, because I want to make sure that they're doing exactly what their mission said they're to be doing. You know what I'm saying? Like, how our mission here is trauma healing and spiritual growth. So y'all know that's what you're getting. but you also know you're part of the movement of combating radio frequency for healthier living, so we can increase in nourishment with the increase of God. That's that spiritual growth. Yeah, and not only that, yeah, the money directly into the hand of that person and give them blankets, food, and all. Well, yeah, I wouldn't say cleaning product necessarily, but I know you're talking about hygiene. Right. They do have, I do know this, for those who may not know it, check your jurisdiction, okay? Check in your local area. But I know here, hotels will, you're going to have to obviously pay for it if you can and when you can, but there are vouchers, like hotel vouchers, that we can get to hand out to some of the needy out here as well, so that they can get out of the weather and get themselves a good night's sleep and a shower. I do know we have those. I saw it when I was on next door before we got rid of that, and I know that there are some local people who have done that and do that. So you can, yeah, I got you on the hygiene side. But yeah, absolutely. And so I know. So you might want to check if you're looking into doing something. Let's say you don't have an abundance of food, but you do have a few extra dollars, and you want to do something like that. Check into hotel vouchers, okay, for the needy. Oh yeah. Hotels will do that. You'll just have to ask them how that works. I don't know the details yet myself. I just know that is a possibility of something that we can do as chosen ones when we come together and do what we can for them when we can. All right. And like I said, I'm not going to announce, when I do it like that, but I had to share because today's experience went right along with that verse about not letting any man beguile us, okay, of our reward, because that is a reward from God for us to be able to do that, because I had the abundance of food items, okay, I had an abundance. That's the reward of God. I want y'all to know that, understand that when we increase with the increase of God, that abundance is a reward from God. So let no man beguile you of your reward. Where you're going and doing a humility, right? Yeah, that's like a humanitarian duty. Okay, let no man beguile you of that. Something to meditate on there. Colossians chapter 2, everybody. So that wraps this one up for today. All right. That was awesome. I didn't know how long I didn't even know if we were going to go for a whole hour, but yay. Awesome. And well, the as far as the real estate that's standing empty, that could be put to good use for the needy, of course. But then the Matrix wouldn't have that issue to complain about, now would they? Got to remember how the Matrix and these narcissists don't want to solve that problem, because if they solve that problem, they don't have it to complain about, nor do they have it to look down upon to stroke their own egos. I know, it's sick and twisted, but it is the fallen world that we live in. So we as chosen ones, as a collective, will do what we can when we can, okay? As a collective in the growing community of spiritual warriors for Christ at Consulting for Heightened Awareness, we're going to do what we can when we can, and that's that. So now y'all know that whenever you sow a seed into this ministry, we got that going on too, okay? To give back to the community in whatever way we possibly can, without giving too much. And to those who don't, we don't cast holy things before dogs, right? We don't turn over holy things. We don't cast our pearls before swine anymore. So we will definitely continue to do what God puts on our spirit to do. And that's it. That's all we got to do. Continue to please God. All right, everybody. And we love every minute of it. I'm sending love and light to all fellow warriors. Thank you. Okay, yes. Thank you for your continued support Yeah, thank you for watching, listening, and for your continued support. Until next time, let's show some gratitude to the Heavenly Father. And you keep being you. In Jesus' name, amen.